The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it Wednesdays here. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. As we are loaded up today, plenty of thoughts, insight, speculation, the why and what is real with the Trev Alberts and Texas A&M situation. What can we tell you? We'll let you know here in just a second. Numbers to get in, 489-1240, 489-1240, 800-825-5865. Can call up, can say what's up if you like, can email Chris at hailvarsity.com. Can also join us in the StreamYard. Many of you have been camped out. We love you. Thanks for doing that. Hail Varsity YouTube channel where you can subscribe and like. Do that. Easy for me to say. But yes, subscribe and like it. And tell your buddies. Also Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and all over the social media platforms. KFOR, Facebook, and Twitter. Hail Varsity Radio Twitter. Give us a follow there. And, of course, AM 590, Omaha's ESPN. It's spring break, Elijah. Spring break means breathers for some and a little time away for others. And the Husker Nation rocked this morning by a report out of the Houston Chronicle that Texas A&M targeting Trev Alberts. And that led to some of the national writers, be it Pete Thamel of ESPN, of course, Nicole Auerbach from The Athletic, and who else am I missing? On threes, folks. I mean, so you have everyone saying, sources say Trev Alberts to Texas A&M soon to be announced. That was before lunchtime. And as the day has gone on, as we check phone, check sources, check heart rate, right now, still no announcement for Trev Alberts for Texas A&M. In fact, we can go back to as late as, 2:48 Central Time with this tweet from A&M Aggie reporter Philip Ket-Flamo. Statement here from Texas A&M Associate AD, that's Alan Cannon, about Trev Alberts. This is about an hour and a half ago. Texas A&M President Mark Welsh appointed a 7-person committee to search for our new athletic director. I have not received any notification from the president or anyone on the committee at this time. So no notification of acceptance on Trev Alberts' behalf. There's been no comment by Trev Alberts yet as to what's up. So let's get into the weeds here a little bit, folks, and we'll do our shout-outs and our starting five in a moment here with the StreamYard folks. But as you look at things, Elijah, and there's all sorts of possibilities as to the why. I know what isn't a major factor. Money is not a major factor to me for Trev Alberts. He got bumped. He's making 1.7. He's top 10. Trev's a guy who, despite being able to spend money on whatever he wants with his career earnings in his different fields of expertise, is a guy that told us at media days when he was asked, what are you wearing? And I think Aaron Sorensen did that video piece. It was great because the players all got involved with it. Trev's like, well, I got this from what Nordstrom's on sale, right? And so here are some contributing factors as to why. Why would a guy with his name on the stadium, with a Butkus Award he used to use as a doorstop in his home gym? I know that because my brother would go work out over at Trev's with Trev's neighbor kid when Trev lived in Lincoln, right after he got drafted by the Colts.
That's so crazy. It's a doorstop.
It was his doorstop to the gym. I had to go get my brother for dinner one time. Oh, he's at Trev's. Oh, that Trev's? Yeah, that Trev's. And the guy who flies commercial, who drives to Chicago or Indy for media days. Okay, Trev's not a bling, look at me guy. Okay, so it isn't money. Well, and I know A&M can give you life-changing money, but it isn't about money. This thing's, don't you feel it's got to be political?
Well, the number one reason why I think it's not money is I think it was pretty tactically released earlier this morning, probably around 11 o'clock, that Texas A&M's offer.
By whose hand? Is A&M saying, dude, get off the pot, tell us what your decision is? Or is it Trev saying, all right, find me a freaking president?
Well, I mean, it was released that the money that Texas A&M would be paying Trev Alberts was very comparable to what he would be making at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. It was as simple as that. That came out today. That's all the proof you need. This isn't about money. This isn't about Trev saying, oh, well, Texas A&M's offering me all this money. It's a very comparable offer. There is something else bubbling below the surface. It's not Trev saying, I'm going to cash in.
Mm-hmm. No, and here are some of the factors that you've either read or talked about a buddy with around the water cooler or been on a message board with, but they're factors, right? One, it sucks when your boss that you're tight with leaves. That happened. That happened 7 months ago when President Carter left for Ohio State. A couple of sources we checked with have told us the following about Trev. Trev maybe had some interest when the Big Ten commissioner's job opened up. Trev maybe had some interest when the Ohio State athletic director's job opened up. I haven't talked to Trev, so I have not gotten a confirm nor deny. But Trev's thinks big. Is Trev want to do something when and if there's a college football commissioner? Does he at Nebraska forever? I don't know. But I know that I don't think he'd leave Nebraska for A&M unless he is just sick and tired of banging his head against the wall. That's one thing. Your boss is gone, so who's in charge? Who's in charge to green light your spending for the South Stadium project? Well, you have an interim president right now. Interim president tells you to go where? To get approval.
Oh, the donors. What do you mean? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Or the Board of Regents.
He tells you to go to the Board of Regents to get approval. And the Board of Regents are going to make you jump through 70. And listen, I don't know the Board of Regents, but it's not as simple as getting approval from your immediate boss to move forward. And he's probably pissed about this because construction was supposed to start in January. And he's got a vision and an idea, and he's probably not wrong. You need to revamp what South Stadium. He's been very real about what Nebraska football isn't, right? And where you need to get better. And he's done that with hiring Coach Rule, but also the fan experience he's been very in tune with. So you lose your boss that you're close with. When it comes to...
Well, not only is he your boss, but the boss that a month before he left also got more power, more oversight, direct oversight over the athletic department.
Yeah, so your old boss is gone. Your new boss is not just your boss, but he has power over the athletic department.
Yes.
Right? And that may be uneasy. Secondly, when it comes to accessing donor dollars, A&M has a lot of folks. They got a lot of J.R. Ewings down there. They also have a lot of ways to access. They probably have multiple collectives. Okay? That's the name of the game right now is NIL. So from a benefits and salary standpoint, A&M can probably be better than Nebraska. And the other part of this, too, is the lawsuit here. You've got Trev, you've got Coach Williams, you've got Chuck Love, and you have the Regents all named in this lawsuit by the former Nebraska women's basketball player. And when it comes to, your future boss, how is your future boss going to react to that? I think the lawsuit he's in the lawsuit. So whether he's at A&M or Nebraska, if it's not settled, you're going to have to face the music. I'm not accusing or saying there's guilt. I'm just saying you're going to have to deal with that if it's not settled by the university. Mm-hmm. But I think above all, this comes down to Trev Alberts and Coach Osborne looked at Colorado in the late 70s. Mike Babcock's coming up with this. Oh, you really like me? You want me? Things are going well? They are. They're going really well athletically for Nebraska. Don't make me go to the Board of Regents to start this South Stadium project and ask to spend my money. I'm not asking to spend your money, University of Nebraska. I'm asking to spend the athletic department's own money to move forward with this. And someone needs to give him a yes on this. The other part of things that probably frustrate Trev Alberts is with it being wide open and the NCAA dropping their lawsuit, you're now able to move NIL in-house. I think that is something he wants to have something like that done sooner rather than later. He wants more control on NIL. So those two things right now, why do you not have an answer or a decision from Trev towards A&M? I think Trev Alberts right now, I think the governor right now, I think there's a ton of folks in Trev's corner that and the rest of the Husker Nation's freaked out about today, the thought of him leaving, because the next domino is, well, when the hell's Rule out the door? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's gone from a glorious week of two teams getting into the NCAA tournament to, oh, it's Wednesday. I need 7 pints of alcohol. If I'm a Nebraska fan, just the thought of him leaving because of how things have been turned around under his watch.
And the best way I can describe the situation that's going on right now is I compare it to a poker game. Trev Alberts.
Or a game of chicken.
Whatever you want to call it, sure. But Trev Alberts right now has an extremely strong hand. We've just seen the flop. And Trev is trying to bet in a way that everyone else at the table understands who has the strong hand. If you follow what I'm saying
sure.
here. I'm not saying that he is bluffing.
He has just gone all in.
This Texas A&M move is not a bluff, but yes, he has gone all in, and I think he's willing to say, I am the one that's in power right now. Either you accept that or I'll be on my way. Mm-hmm. So maybe a poker game's not the perfect example because he's not going to fold, but like that's what we're talking about here. It's Trev Alberts understands that he has the strong hand. He wants to make sure everyone else at the table understands he has the strong hand. He isn't the one that is in control right now. And either you listen to his demands, you listen to what he wants with control over the autonomy of the athletic department and being able to control their own financial decisions with NIL and with how that is handled from being currently out of house and maybe moving in-house, or maybe the athletic department just has some greater sense of control, the ability to move it in-house. There are demands that Trev Alberts wants right now. And simply put, if Trev Alberts wanted to leave Nebraska, he'd be gone by now. This would have been announced. This wouldn't have been a rumor that was announced this morning. It would have been Texas A&M announcing, we're pleased to announce that Trev Alberts has accepted a 5-year contract to be the new athletic director. If Trev Alberts wanted out, that would already be done right now. Trev Alberts has a list of demands. He's politicking right now. He's got a strong offer in the back pocket. And he's saying, hey, I have these demands. Either you meet my demands, either you take care of me, or I'll be on my way.
Sure, and good for him.
And what does that show the grander public should Trev Alberts leave? It's without doing so explicitly, pointing the finger at the Board of Regents as the issue with Husker football and the Nebraska Athletic Department right now. It's Trev Alberts, by leaving, would be pointing that finger at them, and they know that's on the line right now.
Well, and it's been 7 months, no president. Listen, let me do my job. Let me move forward with this vision, or I'm out. Under Nebraska Athletics, they have signed the number 1 quarterback in the 2024 class. That is Trev's hire and Matt Rule. Volleyball, Big Ten champs, NCAA runner-up. Men's basketball ending a 10-year NCAA tournament drought. Women's basketball, Big Ten tournament runner-up, NCAA tournament bound. Mark Manning keeps kicking ass, ranked in the top 10 for wrestling. Baseball off to a scorching start. And another comeback win last night. They are in the top 5 of RPI. Softball landed the number 2 player in the country. Soccer, Big Ten regular season champs. And hopefully bowl bound if you're a Nebraska fan in year 2. Who's on the line?
You go to Chris.
Chris, thanks for calling. Go for it.
Hey guys. So Elijah, you did. I think you did a really good job of kind of summarizing. That if Trev wanted to leave, he'd be gone already, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this, I'm not trying to put words in anybody's mouth or anything, but from the outside looking in, this is leadership, and in our case, a lack of leadership, right?
Yes.
And so I agree. You're basically putting the governor and the Board of Regents, and whatever that mess is right now. You're putting those people on blast. Like, you guys need to get your poop in a group here and get on board with this, right? So, I mean, that's what it seems to me from the outside looking in, is that, and we got to remember that the Board of Regents, those are voted upon by the constituents of this state, right? So that, and if I'm not mistaken, there's a couple of them that are coming up for re-election here very shortly. So everybody needs to take heed of this and make themselves aware. Like, if these aren't the people that we need leading our institution within the state, then we need to get them the hell out of there, because this is a huge factor at whether or not our athletic program is going to survive.
Well, and that's the rub. Chris, thank you for the phone call, bud. Appreciate you tuning in. It also comes down to impact and prioritizing AAU, right? That is the athletics versus the academics world. We'll spend some time. We'll get our starting five shout-outs in a moment. Mike Babcock's next. It's Hail Varsity.
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmitty.
Schmitty's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
And Elijah.
You want me to speak? When I point at you, yeah.
On Hail Varsity Radio.
So our starting five, as we shout out Mike Babcock for joining us at MD Babs on Twitter, his bi-weekly newsletter, all things Nebraska. You love it, and if you don't subscribe, do so. Mike B at HurrdatSports.com. And you grandpa checks in first. Justin second. Jeff third. Brennan from the Black Hills in at 4. Anonymous 5. KG, which is much easier to read on the air, in at 6. And Brandon in at 7. Crew says, what's up? Oh, yeah. Happy birthday, Elijah.
Thank you.
Happy freaking birthday today.
Would have appreciated a slower work day for my birthday, but that's the world we live in.
And Crew says, sorry about Trev. Listen, Crew, there's no word yet. Eric Olson, the Associated Press, made, what's the story say here? Babbers, how are you? How have you dealt with today's potential news about Trev to Aggie land? You have A&M was close to hiring Alberts, a person with direct knowledge of the negotiations, told the AP earlier today. But to the executive associate athletic director, Doug Ewald, told the AP that Alberts was still considering the offer. We have no statement from Trev, no statement from Nebraska. And right now, I think this is some political maneuvering. There's things that Trev wants to get done. I think he wants to stay in Lincoln. We'll see if that happens. What's your take and read on today as the world turns? Things were all sunny this week for Nebraska athletics.
Yeah, as the world spins, it's been, I don't know. Yes, he's leaving. No, he isn't. You go on Twitter, you see all kinds of things. I thought Elijah capsulized it pretty well. Mm-hmm. But the demands or expectations on Trev's part are not for Trev, they're for the athletic department. I mean, I think that's what that's his base. That's the kind of person that he is. I'm probably a bad person to jump in on this because I'm a big Alberts fan. Always have been since he was a player here. He's a great person. Mm-hmm. In addition to the great athlete that he is or was. I think I agree that if this were the case, that if he were leaving, this would be resolved now. Mm-hmm. I don't think we'd still be talking about it, because I think there would be a decision. Well, we'd be talking about it for sure, because if he left, we'd be talking about it. And if we were sure that he was staying, we'd be talking about it. But I think that there would be a decision one way or the other at this point, if that were the case. I don't think that we would be backtracking or pointing out that administratively at Texas A&M nothing had been made official, that they were looking into hiring a replacement AD. I think that Trev probably would have made a statement to the effect that he was either going or staying. If he didn't make that statement, I assume that he's staying, or at least is at the point where that's his preference. It is kind of a shocking thing. Now, I guess you can't be kind of shocking, right? Mm-hmm. It is shocking that this discussion all of a sudden happens after everything that you've pointed out here, that particularly the immediate success of what the basketball teams have done. And, people are getting excited about that, and it's a great thing. And then all of a sudden, wham, it's like, well, the story is that the athletic director is about to leave Nebraska. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Nothing to verify that he is. Just doesn't seem like it ought to follow what's happened with the basketball teams. And, a fast start for the baseball team, expectation, the volleyball success, the 92,003 at Memorial Stadium, the softball team getting Jordy Ball, unfortunately injured out for the year, but a tournament coming up this weekend. Just all kinds of things that are positive from a standpoint of a Husker fan, and then to have this happen is as the world spins.
Well, the timing of all these things, Mike, as you kind of lay out, is what leads me to believe today's move is more power play from Trev than anything else, trying to get some of his demands, because you have momentum with the football team for it feels like the first time in a long time. You talk about the basketball program, really all the sports programs at Nebraska, combined with the fact Nebraska's currently breaking in a new chancellor. They're searching for a new president. And you look at it, do the Board of Regents want to look for a new AD too, given how positive this athletic department is currently trending right now, and assuming that there would be some tear up and some rebuild that would be necessary should you look for a new AD and find a new AD? So many things lead me to believe it's a power play, but I want to get into something that the stream is discussing here, and we go to Jacob's comment asking, it's hard to imagine they don't release something before the day is done, going on to say they surely won't let this drag into the night. What's your take on that? The longer this goes on, positive for Nebraska or negative for Nebraska? Because I think as the day has gone on, it's felt more positive for Nebraska. Well, he would have been gone by now if he would have already made that decision, but then the longer it goes on, the more it makes you think, well, maybe Trev isn't getting the demands that he wants. What's your take on the sweet spot between the time this is taking being positive or negative?
I would answer that question with a question. I mean, the person to make this statement needs to be Trev. Is that right? Because who else would make this statement that nothing has happened? We want to hear from Trev Alberts at some point today, right? Would that be the person that would?
Yes.
Would make this statement? Yes. I mean, that's because we don't have a university president. I suppose the chancellor could say something, but the Trev, I think that needs to be the case, that Trev needs to say something, make an official statement to at least put this thing into some kind of context. If he's considering it, let us know. If he's turning it down, let us know, because I think it has an effect on the athletic department. I mean, you've got to know these kinds of things. And, when you look at it from the standpoint of what it's going to cost, if he were to leave, it would cost what?
$4.12 million for him.
Okay, it would cost that. And he's in a position to where he's going to earn more money next year, which this was a tweet, so I don't know. I didn't look this up, but it would put him in the top 10 in terms of athletic directors, what kind of money they make. Mm-hmm. So, how much more money would he make if he were to go to Texas A&M? I don't think it's money. I think it's what Elijah said. I think it's demands or expectations that benefit the athletic department that need to be made. And I think you have to clarify where you're at this point to underscore that.
Mike Babcock's with us from Hail Varsity, Hurrdat Sports at MD Babs on Twitter. Babbers, you have seen about everything from Nebraska football and all the way back to Bob Devaney wanting his contract extended. That didn't happen. And then this merry-go-round of ADs. There's always been talk of leadership. There's been talk about rowing in the same direction. Speak to just the relationship that needs to exist and has had a hard time existing, it seems or feels like, between the academic world and the athletic world.
Well, going back to Osborne, academics, obviously, between Osborne and the academic world were very positive. I mean, I think that was a big emphasis of Osborne. I think it has to be. You have to do that. But with NIL money and the transfer portal, it's becoming more and more not professional, but
professionalized.
Sports are, it's a whole different kind of a thing. Student athlete kind of. I don't know if that applies as much as it once did because of the money that's changing hands and the money that's being committed and so forth. But you have to be able to have a connection between the two, athletics and academics. I mean, you can go, I'll laugh about this, go clear back, way back to when Jumbo Steam left Nebraska after the 1915 season. He was willing to stay for amount of money, I think $40 to $100 or something like that. And boosters in the community said, hey, we'll pick up the tab. We'll pick up the price of the increase. And the educational side of it, the professors said, hey, no way is this going to happen. We're not going to have boosters doing this so that a football coach can make more money than professors and whatever. I mean, there's always been that. You got to have the educational and the athletics have to be in sync somehow. And the fact that Ted Carter is gone and they haven't named a president yet probably adds to that problem. It's just, there are moving pieces to this that go beyond Trev Alberts and his expectations. And his expectations are dependent on those other moving pieces. And I didn't think it would come to this with Trev Alberts as athletic director. I didn't think it would ever come to this because I thought that the expectations that he had would be supported by the other side.
And they may be supported, but you've got an interim president who can't green light it. The regent's got to green light it, and they've got to move forward with a hire, right, of a president. It's been 7 months.
Exactly.
And he wants to know who he's probably working for, A, and B is the vision. Last thought here, Babbers. Well, shoot, can you hang on for a couple minutes on the other side? Yeah. How crazy is this idea? Could Trev turn in? Is he a candidate for the president of the university system? And I'm not saying do both jobs, but all right, the president of the university system is overseeing athletics, so you're the VP AD.
That'd be straight out of the House of Cards, Schmitty.
Well, we need no Kevin Spacey on this Wednesday. Okay,
stay as far away from him as possible.
I've seen some pretty disturbing things from old Herbie Husker on the edge of a ledge today on Twitter. ready to jump. Hang on, Mike Babcock. Mike Babcock's with us. Hail Varsity continues. We're powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you at Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, and Mike Babcock from Hail Varsity, Hurrdat Sports, at MD Babs on Twitter. Find Elijah on Twitter at Herbal Essence, at Schmidt_radio. Give the show a follow at HV Radio. And watch us on the StreamYard. You can see Babbers in his football den right now on video via StreamYard with the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Like and subscribe there. Babbers, you have this need and want by many in Nebraska academically to be part of the AAU again. Everyone else in the Big Ten is part of the AAU. And to do that, you need an emphasis on research and development and dollars in the academic world that way. And that supervision and prioritization is real. You also need the ability to have emphasis and the want to expand what you're doing football wise, right? You got to spend money to improve where Nebraska currently sits in the Big Ten, and Nebraska right now needs to be like everyone else. Some feel as part of the AAU in the Big Ten. That might be a source of contention from a emphasis. What's more important here, academics or athletics? I want to get your take on the prospect, and I don't know the ins and outs of how it could even be done, but Teddy Carter takes off. You've got an interim. Could Trev be a guy? I mean, is that a solution to this? And I know that doesn't help the AD spot, but at least he's still here. Is that too far fetched? What's your take on that?
I don't know if he's an academic All-American. I mean, he was a very committed student, successful from that standpoint as well. I don't know if he has the resume that people look for when you're hiring a university president, or if you could look at an AD as a potential president. I don't know the ins and outs of that kind of thing.
How many scholarly papers does a Butkus equal, right? Yeah,
right. But certainly academic All-American is part of the deal. So, from my standpoint, and again, as I mentioned earlier, I'm biased, but yeah, he could be a candidate for that. He could do, I think, a good job of that, or any kind of administrative position that he was involved in. I just think that his commitment is such that he would get the job done. But I don't know that his resume includes the kinds of things that somebody would look at if they were looking at for a university president, because his background and everything is athletics, and that's where his light shines the most. So I don't know is my answer, which fits a lot of things that I don't know.
That's today. Yeah. We don't know.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Mike, to reset the conversation here. We know with a pretty good idea of what some of the friction behind the scenes has been in the past couple months. What we don't know today is what Trev's demands are. And with that in mind, not knowing what his demands are, whatever they are, if they're not met, where does Nebraska go at the AD spot? What does it mean for Matt Rule? What does it mean for Fred Hoiberg, in your opinion? Obviously, those are the questions, those are the unknowns. But what does Nebraska do if the impasse between the university, Board of Regents, and Trev Alberts is not solved? What happens?
So who are they going to hire as athletic director?
I mean,
is that what you're asking?
Kind of.
Where do you go?
Where do you go there? What does that mean for Matt Rule? Just what the bigger picture? What happens?
There's a question right there.
Yeah, what happens if Trev is out?
Yeah, he's Matt Rule's hire was a result of Trev Alberts. That's why Matt Rule is here. Matt Rule would probably, and I'm not saying he's going to leave, but I'm sure that he has opportunities that he could go somewhere else if that were the case. If this thing expands, it's like, well, there's all this confusion in the athletic department because Trev is no longer there. What's going to happen? Is there going to be a trickle-down effect? You want to keep Fred Hoiberg. Mm-hmm. What's going to happen with Amy Williams? There are all these questions. I don't know. I have a candidate, Ed Stewart.
Okay.
He has administrative experience, but for me, university has to figure out a way to keep Trev Alberts.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the demands that he makes are for the good of the athletic department. The one issue that's going to be difficult for Trevor or whoever is the athletic director and the president probably as well, top down, is this South Stadium restructure, which needs to be done. But what do you do with all those people that have tickets in the South Stadium and they're not going to be in those seats for how long is this supposed to take? 1 year? 2 seasons? Mm-hmm. And on top of that, where's the revenue going to come from? Because you're not selling those tickets now. That's a problem. And the athletic department, does its own thing, generates its own revenue, or spends its own revenue. But with NIL, again, as I've said before, boosters are putting money into NIL that they might have put into the university fund, money that you would have had net for things like this project are now going into NIL, and they don't have enough money to double up. So who's going to handle that? Needs to be Trev, I think.
Well, and Trev has got a very generous collective here. There are folks that he knows that are power players in Omaha from a financial standpoint. I mean, there are sources of income to do both, to navigate both worlds, the stadium project and keep Nebraska on the forefront of NIL. You just have a lot more options down at A&M. Gut says what, Mike, before we say goodbye? Tomorrow morning you're waking up saying fare thee well, or Trev is still here?
Or a 4-letter word.
We just say that anyway, waking up.
I'm waking up saying he's still here. But I'm usually wrong about stuff. I'm waking up saying he's still here. And one last thing I will say is Texas A&M is not the smoothest operating situation either.
No.
I mean, you're jumping out of the frying pan into the fire if that's where you go, I think.
Well, I believe they have a new president and a new football coach now at Texas A&M. So this would be the hire that would attempt to get everything pulling in the right direction at Texas A&M after about a decade.
Can you see Trev with the old Yell squad in their white ice cream man outfits?
Could see Trev wanting to kill them.
Saying gig 'em at a midnight Yell party with a giant bonfire. I can't see Trev doing that. No.
Nor can I, but I didn't think we'd be having this discussion today.
Can see Trev sacking him like it's 3rd and 8. Mike, we love you. Appreciate the talk today.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
All right, there he is. Mike Babcock, historian, author, Hall of Famer, Mr. Husker Football. Room for you. We'll get to many of your comments on the stream. Hail Varsity.
Might be official to Texas A&M. We'll get into that after the break.
Okay.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
We'll check in with Bill Doleman in just a moment. In the second hour, Evan Bland set to be joining us. And we just got done talking with Mike Babcock. Our gut says what, and it sounds like an Amy Just reporting here from the Journal-Star.
And I can independently confirm as well.
Okay, so you got...
I can independently confirm.
What are your sources reached out to you?
Athletic department employees have received an email directly from Trev Alberts indicating that he has informed the Nebraska Board of Regents that he's resigning his position as director of athletics to accept the same role at Texas A&M. So
Trev is off to A&M per an email, an internal email to the athletic department. Trev Alberts, Amy Just reporting, has decided to take the A&M athletic director job per one of her sources. That's about 5 minutes old. Well, this is brutal, absolutely brutal for Nebraska. And it came down to what? We kind of laid out things that, and Mike put it really well here, expectations that Trev had for the athletic department. And when I say for the athletic department, not just performance-wise on the field and in the classroom, but also expectations, i.e., got to do something about the South Stadium, right? Stadium's 100 years old. Expectations on his end to hopefully, with things more open now, NIL-wise, to move NIL more in-house. And who knows what else. There are things he's been fighting. Expectations to have a boss that can make a decision, not an interim. And Trev Alberts off to Texas A&M. This is tough, and this is tough for the momentum of where Nebraska athletics has been going under Trev Alberts' watch. This is extremely tough from a stability standpoint. Elijah, that's one thing, one of many things Trev brought to Nebraska was stability. And he brought a football coach that's really talented and looks to have a big second year. Now both guys, Elijah, that hired Matt Rule are gone. Think about that. Let that sit in for a moment. And that is uneasy, not for Matt Rule, but for keeping Matt Rule, quite honestly. And you're trying to get football back awake and dominant again. Basketball, both men's and women's, volleyball, soccer, baseball, softball, wrestling. Go down the list of sports, man. They've really been kicking it into gear under Trev's watch. And Nebraska will now be charged to find a new athletic director. Again, Elijah and his source confirming an internal email with Nebraska, the athletic department, and Amy Just from the Journal-Star also reporting that Trev is off to A&M. We are going to break. We will come right back, I promise you.
Jesus Christ, happy birthday to me.
Elijah's gonna have a carton of Marlboro Reds to celebrate
during the commercial break.
Trev to A&M. What's next for Nebraska? How do they weather this? They'll have to figure it out. Who are some names on the short list? And we'll get to your thoughts and comments in the stream. Evan Bland, Bill Doleman. Hail Varsity, Hour 2
Husker
continues.
Fans, permission to panic.
Yeah, it's okay. This isn't good. Herbie, don't jump, brother. I don't know that it'll be okay, but stay with us.
The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Back with you. It's Hour 2 at Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Elijah's celebrating his birthday today. It's Elijah Herbel Day, but it's also the day Trev Alberts left for Texas A&M. Internal email that we got our hands on. Husker staff, I'm writing to inform you that earlier today I informed interim president Kaborik that I am resigning my position as director of athletics to accept the same role at Texas A&M. I am very sorry for the timing and that I was not able to communicate these changes to you in person. Thank you so much for all that you've done to make Husker athletics so special. I'm grateful for all that we accomplished together and believe that because of you, Nebraska is well positioned for the evolving changes within our industry. Tough decisions will need to be made. Unity of vision and high execution will be necessary, but I'm confident that leadership in Nebraska will rise to the occasion. Nebraska athletics is full of high character, hardworking, talented staff and coaches. It was an honor to get to partner with you to experience unprecedented success. Thank you again, from Trev. We bring in Evan Bland from the Omaha World Herald at Evan Bland OWH on Twitter. Evan, a bombshell this morning that was reported in the Houston Chronicle. Not a bombshell that A&M would want to target Trev, but a bombshell that he left Nebraska. What's your reaction?
I mean, it's shock. I was trying to think as things were playing out today, what to even compare it to in Nebraska athletics in terms of a controllable decision that was made that kind of came out of the blue and at least on its surface didn't make a ton of sense. And it's hard for me to come up with anything beyond, maybe the Spolich firing back then, but even then, people kind of knew that it was a possibility. It really did come out of nowhere in the sense that, Trev had a lot of momentum in the athletic department right now, obviously with football and his hire and Coach Rule and the direction that program's going, but so much more as well with volleyball and volleyball day, and Fred Hoiberg, whom he retained, is having success, and now they're getting ready for the postseason. You look at the South Stadium renovation that's set to get underway this winter. Like, there was just a lot of positive momentum in a lot of different areas, and to leave for what seems to be a lateral job, a change at A&M, at a place where he didn't star as a defensive playmaker and doesn't have the institutional knowledge that he has in Lincoln, is really surprising. So I think it's been a day of kind of processing this, trying to connect the dots, see if it's a matter of him running towards something or running from something, and now finally we get a little bit of resolution here at the end of the day.
And regardless if he's running towards something or away from something, Evan, it feels like just a massive leadership failure that Trev has been let go at this point in not only the football team's rebuild, but where the athletic department's at as a whole. The fact that you don't have a president, the fact that you're letting Trev go right now in this moment just feels like a failure of the highest proportions, right?
Yeah, there's a huge leadership void. There's no doubt. I mean, there's no president currently. You look at who sort of undertakes this process now to find a replacement. Like, there's no obvious choice. I mean, the chancellor is still relatively new to the position. You look kind of internally, there aren't a lot of obvious internal candidates that you can point to and say, okay, this person could be your interim AD moving forward. I mean, Trev he had a unique gifting in a lot of ways. I mean, he was forward-thinking. He still is, of course. He's still alive. He's forward-thinking. He's articulate. He's detailed. He's calculated, I think, in a lot of ways. He's strategic. And those are a lot of those qualities. You have them or you don't. And he was really uniquely gifted in that way. It's going to create a leadership void, there's no doubt, within the athletic department. I know there were people that wanted him to be the president at the university level just because of how impressive he is in a lot of different ways. So to let him walk is really tough. And the university made a commitment to him last November when they extended his deal and made him one of the highest paid athletic directors and in the Big Ten and in the country. But clearly there was something behind the scenes, whether there were assurances that couldn't be met, whether there was just something about Nebraska that was different from what he saw at A&M. A lot of that's going to remain to be seen until he comes out and speaks in more detail about what happened. But yeah, there's no doubt to let him go as a valuable a piece as he has been to the leadership of Nebraska is a huge shame for the university moving forward.
Evan Bland with us, Omaha World Herald, Hail Varsity Radio. Trev Alberts to Texas A&M official. We read that internal email to you, and I think Sam McEwen, Amy Just reporting as well. This news, and just a bombshell for Nebraska fans. Many are frustrated and angry. Feels like he's walking out on the Husker Nation. That's the thousands of people here on the stream. That's not all of their voice, but that's a lot of what we're seeing. Evan, I want to get your follow-up and just talk a little further about some of the things that Trev felt like was necessary for the athletic department to move forward. You got the football coach hired. Your programs have performed very well since he took over. And now it came down to a couple of things as I see it. One, you have the South Stadium renovation. He also was very real about where Nebraska is compared to where Nebraska used to be. And another part of this is you have the landscape of NIL and the want on his end to move things in-house. And he just really couldn't move forward, is it fair to say, with an interim president. Nothing against the interim president, but you're interim, right? I mean, so he had to go and get green lights and thumbs up, and a lot of red tape, I guess, is the feel here. Do you agree?
I mean, yeah, but a lot of that's going to be the case at A&M too. I mean, the NIL structure is what it is. Universities can't do it. That won't be the case still at A&M for him. And I've talked with some of the media folks down there too. I would not say, and you can just from on the outside looking in, you can say A&M is not exactly a shining beacon of stability and functionality. Like there's a lot of political, climate complications, I suppose, down there. There are people outside the university and athletic department that want to be involved. I don't know that you can make the compelling case that it's easier to win at Texas A&M than it is at Nebraska. I mean, they're both part of the Power Two. Yeah, you've got the SEC and you've got seemingly unlimited financial resources with the oil money coming in down there. But I don't know that they're any more well-positioned than Nebraska is long-term. Now, I have been thinking back to what Trev has alluded to in the last handful of months about this idea that Nebraska and then really any school can't just sort of assume that the status quo is going to remain. Maybe you can't assume that you're going to have a seat at the big boy table down the line if you don't start to win. And I think that urgency has fueled a lot of the moves that Nebraska's made, whether that's the South Stadium renovation and trying to reimagine how fans can experience a game so you can retain that level of support. Maybe that's, I think how he went about his hiring of Matt Rule and some of the qualities that he looked for there. And he's very cognizant, I think, of the changing landscape overall, from NIL to conference realignment to the transfer portal to television rights. Like there's so much going on, and it just felt like I think that's one of the biggest things that Nebraska is going to miss with him is he was so versatile in what he was keeping up on, and he had, I think, earned a reputation certainly within the Big Ten, and I think nationally as a voice with some influence. And so now if you're Nebraska, you're kind of restarting in that sense, depending on who you bring in. You lose that institutional knowledge, you lose some of that momentum, some of that equity that he has just relationally within the athletic department. And clearly when you look at some of the reactions internally, nobody expected this. Nobody saw this thing coming. So everyone's still, I think, reeling today, and Nebraska's going to have no choice but to move forward.
Evan, do you get the feel that whether intentional or not, this move sends out a message to Husker fans that if you want to find the source of the issues that have plagued the Husker Athletic Department and the Husker football program over the past, say, 15 years or so, you need to look at the Board of Regents? Is that kind of the feel you get? Because that's the feel I get, that the Board of Regents and the President's office and the Chancellor, all of them, in letting Trev Alberts go, kind of underscores what the issues have been that have plagued the athletic department as a whole over the past 15 years or so.
Yeah, I mean, there's well-documented runs of dysfunction and turnover and drama. When you look at, I guess it'll be 7 athletic directors since the turn of the century. Obviously, the football coaching turnover, administrative turnover as well. Those things have happened. The struggles that we've seen athletically have occurred under the watch of all those different administrators and supervisors. And so, at some point, you got to look a little bit higher up at the structure of how this thing comes together at the Board of Regents. It's hard to say kind of where that difference of opinion was because, again, they did extend him in November. They extended the contract. They gave him a financial commitment. So it wasn't like he was unappreciated here at Nebraska. It just seems to me maybe more that what his vision was different or perhaps more extreme than what those above him wanted to do or wanted to see. And again, I think we saw Trev push the envelope in some ways to great success, whether that was volleyball day, whether that was, again, potentially the South Stadium renovation with some of the hires that he made. He wasn't afraid to kind of do what he thought was best, and sometimes it was it looked maybe conventionally smart, and sometimes it was different. It was pushing the envelope. And so as we go here now into the next days and weeks, I think it will be fascinating to see where that disconnect was, what Trev wanted that those above him were unwilling or unable to accommodate, and then see how that can change moving forward.
Andy checks in on the stream. Chasing 3 means something new now, chasing a president and AD and more than likely a head football coach. Matt Rule's got a job to do, Evan, and things are positioned well for 2024 for Nebraska. That said, if you're Matt Rule, let's jump into his mind. Teddy C and now Trev Alberts, both guys that got you here, are gone, and that's got to be very uneasy for Nebraska football fans.
Well, Matt Rule was already scheduled to talk, I believe, Monday.
Yeah.
So that press conference suddenly takes on a much different tenor. But yeah, I mean, Matt Rule he wasn't shy about the fact that Ted Carter and Trev Alberts were 2 leaders that he could get behind and step in with, and they shared their worldviews and things like that. And so it'll be fascinating to see how that goes, because I think on the one hand you can look at Matt Rule and say, like, he's pretty self-sufficient in a lot of ways. He knows who he is. I don't think he needs a ton of guidance from above. Certainly the support you want from your AD and all that, but I think in a lot of ways he knows who he is as a coach, and he can run the program fine. I think where maybe the uneasiness for Nebraska fans will come in is, okay, say Nebraska has a breakout season, they go back to a bowl game, maybe they win 8 games this year, whatever, and Matt Rule comes up on hot boards or coaching searches next off season. There's just that much less reason for him to stay. Sure. If the guy who hired him isn't here, if the guy who he has such a strong relationship and connection with is no longer his boss, what does that look like? So, it's hard. You can't put a lot of great spin on it, no matter how you go about it. I mean, the relational equity that they had was incredibly valuable, and so. Again, like you said, short-term outlook for the program is really strong this next season, but who that hire is and maybe what role Matt Rule has in deciding on who that next hire is at AD moving forward is certainly one of the things to watch.
Evan, 30 seconds. Do you make a phone call to John Cook as soon as he gets back from Hawaii as the interim option?
I don't know why not. I look internally, and I don't know that there's necessarily an obvious candidate who has a lot of those qualities and the longevity that you'd want in somebody in that role. Cook, I know, has talked a little bit about it over the years. He's certainly been around long enough. He has that success gene in him as well. Nebraska's gone to guys like Dave Remington in the past. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think there's some logic to that if it comes down to it.
Evan Bland with us. Great insight from you, Evan. Good stuff. Read Evan's story today on Husker baseball and the upgrades that are wanted at Haymarket Park. And, Evan, we're going to run you down again. Thank you so much for jumping on a busy day today. I always love your insight, bud.
Yeah, you got it, guys. See ya.
There he is. Evan Bland with us from the Omaha World-Herald at Evan Bland, OWH. Well, the pride of Fairbury, NBC Sports' Bill Doleman, supposed to be on spring break. We will jump to the bat phone, talk with Billy D. Next, it's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Angry, totally understand that. As Nebraska in search of a new athletic director, Pride of Fairbury, NBC Sports, the Professor Bill Doleman joins us.
Surely a candidate for Nebraska's next AD.
I think so. I've got a short list, and hold on.
Yep.
Bill Doleman. Okay, yep. Added to the list.
Right at the top.
Bill, we've been banging the phones all day, period. Reaching out to folks, talking to folks, and we looked at this situation as the day extended from Houston Chronicle this morning at 9:30. to different national outlets saying targeting, right? The other wrong kind of targeting, to now an official announcement. Your reaction? You covered Trev. You know Trev. We've had great interactions with Trev over the years. And what does this say to you about Nebraska right now? Just not just athletic department, but all the bells and whistles that go. The regents, the situation Nebraska is in, they are still spinning tires, brother.
I think this is this would, you want to formulate a nice long opinion and dissertation, but then one thought comes to mind, then another thought comes to mind, and then another thought comes to mind, and it's just, rabbit trails that you go down. My first thought is, what would this be comparable to? I suppose in 1978, had Tom Osborne decided to go to Colorado, that may be it. I don't think, maybe when Tom retired in 97, that was a surprise to everybody. I can remember that day because it was such a surprise. Not so much when Frank Solich got fired, because, those dark clouds were swirling around Nebraska for a long time. So this is a stunner. And I feel bad, and don't take this wrong way. I feel bad for Trev in this regard. He left a dream job for a job. Okay. I think that up until 24 hours ago, we all believed that was his dream job, and Nebraska was in great hands with him. And that doesn't mean that you can't be hurt that he's leaving. You can't be angry that he's hurting. But I just look at this as corporate. He left his dream job for a job. There at Texas A&M, since Bill Byrne retired in 2012, he will be their fourth athletic director. With interims, yeah. Right? So the average lifespan of the tenure for an AD at Texas A&M is 3 years or so. So where does this take? Trev Alberts is not going to be, a lifetime Aggie. I mentioned this to you earlier, and I'm going down all these rabbit trails that just keep popping into my mind. This is going to remind me of when Dana Altman took the Arkansas basketball job about 15 or so years ago, left Creighton, took the Arkansas job, and then got up at the press conference and did the traditional woo pick suey and could not have looked more uncomfortable.
He freaked out.
And it turned out it was so uncomfortable that he left the job and went back to Creighton. And I just seen Trev Alberts doing the gig 'em whoop with the guys in the ice cream suits and milkman outfits. I just cannot picture it. And I think it's going to be a really uncomfortable thing. When Bill Byrne left Nebraska for Texas A&M in 2003, look, Bill Byrne was the ultimate white-collar athletic director, corporate assassin. That dude was one of the greatest athletic directors in history, and he had done everything he could to bring Nebraska from the 70s into the 21st century, and it was just time to move on after his tenure. He did the same thing at Texas A&M. He revitalized that program, doing what he did best. Was he comfortable doing all that stuff? Probably not, but that wasn't what he was there to do. He was there to bring in the money and bring Texas A&M forward, and he did that, and he got him into the SEC, right? Trev Alberts is not going to have that same kind of corporate killer mentality that Bill Byrne had. I just think it is going to be a really uncomfortable fit for all parties involved. And for Nebraska, I don't know how whoever makes the hire, I don't know how they get up there and say, this is the perfect person to lead the University of Nebraska Athletic Department into its future, because they just had that guy. And now that guy is gone. Whether you like Trevor or not, whether you like understood the whole thing at UNO, that's a long, long time ago. UNO is better. I know Mike Denny and Pat Burns and all that. I get the hurt for football and wrestling, but UNO was better for his tenure, getting them into hockey and into the Summit League, and then going to Nebraska and doing what he did. I know that there are candidates out there, and yes, I am a candidate. I went to college to become the athletic director at the University of Nebraska. I'm available. Okay. I'll even keep my office, but
well, you still talk to us.
I don't know how they get up there and say, this is the person to now lead Nebraska into the future. And if I'm Matt Rule right now, I think I'm still loyal to the contract that I signed for the time being, and I'm going to be try to be true to my word, depending on who they hire. But don't be surprised if in the very near future some people say, well, I'd like to see Tony White as Nebraska's next head football coach. They might get that wish sooner than later.
Mm-hmm. Bill Doleman with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Bill, my read on the news of the day is that it's a public look-in to the power struggle at the University of Nebraska. Do you think that's fair, whether it be between Board of Regents members or the Board of Regents and the athletic director, between the president and the athletic director, whatever that is? I think today kind of gave us the evidence of the power struggle that may be occurring behind the scenes. Is that a fair assessment?
I would almost hope that there's some type of struggle that would indicate that somebody wants to lead, but I'm not sure that, there is that understanding. I don't know, what Trev Alberts, how influenced he is by Warren Buffett. Who's a rich guy from Omaha, in case you don't know.
It's Uncle Warren.
Warren Buffett says that his greatest weakness is his impatience with bureaucracy. And if Trev Alberts is a Warren Buffett disciple, I would assume that that's probably at the forefront as to why this decision has been made. Ted Carter made his announcement a long time ago. He's been gone since the end of 2023. Almost 3 months have passed. I don't know I don't know what the power, who's trying to position themselves with power if they're not showing any power. The only guy who did that was Trev Alberts today, and it didn't work out.
Bill Doleman's with us. Bill, you look at some factors here. You've got the Ted Carter factor you just touched on, 7 months, no replacement. And if you're Trev, you don't have an immediate boss to greenlight your South Stadium project. That's an issue. You don't have to one person to go to say, here's how I want to spend athletically raised dollars. Not public money, not university money, athletic department dollars for the South Stadium. Also, I want to take NIL in-house. Two things that the Trev was vocal about. Very passionate about the South End Zone project, and gloves are off now for in-house NIL based on the court ruling with Tennessee. So, Trev is, that's got to be point A and B, right? When you look at what's going on with a decision to make. And we talked with Babbers about this a little bit, the presidency part of things. Okay, if you're not going to hire my boss, make me the boss, because that falls under the president's umbrella now. Would that have been an option, or was that off the table?
I would have a hard time believing that was an option, but I'm willing to think outside the box on leadership in this era in which we are. Look at some of the conference commissioners. The Big Ten's commissioner is a TV guy, exactly. Right? So in this era, everything has to kind of change in terms of, back in the old day, the athletic directors were always football coaches that were, kicked upstairs, or maybe a basketball coach. It was somebody who had an athletic background, and then it became, a white collar corporate job. Commissioners and TV executives are all kind of enmeshed in that regard as well. So would you make one of the most outside the box hires for the president of a university system? I'm sure somebody has thought about it. Right? They just don't want to actually do it. Maybe Nebraska didn't want to be the first to do something like that either. But, it's such a big deal for the University of Nebraska to get back in the AAU, the academic, consortium or whatever it is. But look, the front porch to any major university or any university is the athletic department. And for Nebraska, it is football. And yeah, is it a priority to get that academic status? Absolutely. But if for those people making decisions thinking that that is much more important than what happens with athletics and football at this time in this climate, look at what Nick Saban said in Congress yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
If you misread it and say that, that one is more of a priority over the other, then you are completely missing where we're headed generationally in the world of collegiate athletics. And I know Nebraska covets that status, but it also covets the status of being a big player on all of the fields of play. And again, I don't know how you say this is the perfect person to lead us when I think Trev was it. There are certainly candidates out there in the academic administration like an Ed Stewart or a Garth Glissman or me, but it's going to be a tough sell now.
Bill Doleman's with us, Pride of Fairbury, NBC Sports, Hail Varsity Radio. Trev Alberts off to Texas A&M. What is next for Nebraska? Bill, we're going to go a little overtime with you if you're allowed. Can we keep you next segment?
Can do, but I got a bourbon waiting for me.
Well, it's Elijah's 25th today, and he's going to IV that son of a gun a little bit later. Elijah's 3 quarts in. We'll jump in to some names along with Bill Doleman and Garth Glissman on the AD short list.
But before we get there, we have a thought in from Matt Schick on Twitter, and I agree with him completely, saying this is just an utter embarrassment of a day for Nebraska.
It is.
I think that's the easiest way to put it. It's an embarrassing day.
Mm-hmm. You go from 2 teams dancing and the excitement and buzz around basketball to Matt Rule's Monday press conference and a really important and fun and exciting spring with Rule and Raiola to the guy who's helped resurrect the Nebraska sports out the door to A&M.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, and Pride of Fairbury, NBC Sports, the Professor, Bill Doleman, with us as a couple of birthdays today. It is Elijah Herbel's birthday. Happy 25. Former Husker standout, former NBA exec, and current second in command of the SEC, Garth Glissman, blowing out the candles today.
We share a birthday?
You share a birthday.
Wow.
It's a day you need to buckle up, folks. I mean this. Use your seatbelt. It saves lives. It prevents injuries. Only if properly worn. Make it click. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. If you see Herbie or Little Red wandering in traffic.
Or Elijah Herbel.
Or Elijah Herbel. Trev is off to A&M. Tough day for Nebraska. So, Bill, we've kind of laid out the political forces that you got to navigate here in the world of athletics and academics. We've touched on that. And Trev wanting to get funding for the South Stadium, in-house NIL. And, as we laid out in hour one, with an interim boss as the president, you've got to go through the Board of Regents to get funding and spending moving forward, even though it's your money, right? You got to get approval, and that has to be tiresome if you're Trev and you're still waiting on a president 7+ months later, and you've just had a bunch of really talented people exit stage left. Ted Carter, Trev Alberts. You pray it's not Matt Rule in the near future. So who's willing to take on this? Some names. Bill Doleman's on the list. Garth Glissman is on the list. Garth finished extremely high in the athletic director opening for Nebraska before Trev was hired. I know that. Jamie Pollard, Iowa State. Jeremiah Dickey, athletic director at Boise State. I say him because he was the AD at Baylor who hired Rule from Temple. So take yourself out of the equation, Bill Doleman, for just a millisecond.
I hadn't thought about that.
Okay, but in all seriousness, who wants to take this on? If you got $450 million for a South End Zone project, you got a football coach that hasn't worked for you in most instances. You've got a thriving athletic department right now where teams are winning except for football, and that could change next year. but you've got a really bad track record of athletic department and academic workings, or at least relationships.
Well, I think Steve Pete was looking for a job.
Still.
He who shall not be named, Bill. Thank you for censoring yourself.
Yeah, it could be. So I guess it could be worse. The names you mentioned are, what was it? Greg Dickey?
Jeremiah Dickey.
And look, right now, it is Board of Regents, whoever needs to be looking to Matt Rule because of what he's been able to do in the year plus he's been around to, bring people back into the fold and feel good about Nebraska football again. You got to lean heavily on Matt Rule as to who you're going to be comfortable with, because
who do you want to stay?
Really, or three with Ronnie Green was going to retire.
Yeah.
But Ted Carter was a surprise going to Ohio State. This is absolutely a total shocker. So I think what are we going to need to do? We couldn't keep the athletic director whose name is on the stadium.
Yeah.
We couldn't keep him. So, Matt, how can we keep you?
It's a hard sell.
So it's going to have to be somebody that Matt Rule is going to be able to have a long working relationship with, or it's going to be very difficult. Now, Nebraska's gone the route of, we said this 20 years ago. It's got to be somebody who understands our culture. We swung and missed with the 4-year case of the flu, right? That was a total disaster. Everybody read that one wrong. People were, I think, skeptical of Trev Alberts because of his UNO tenure and some of the controversial decisions he made, but he got Nebraska. He understood it and understands it and knew what it was going to take to get Nebraska in the future. So you had arguably the perfect hire. It has to be somebody who gets it. It can't be Sean Eichhorst. It can't be
somebody who gets it will not step foot here because of who just walked out the door.
Possibly, but so somebody who has been at a very high level. And I know the NBA is not college football, but Garth is. There aren't too many people, both in terms of character and resume, than Garth Glissman. Ed Stewart, okay, Ed played here a long time ago for Tom. That's another former Husker football player. He is I believe, as of 22, the associate AD for football at USC, which is going into the Big Ten. And they also have a brand new athletic director who came from Washington. So he's got a new boss. Maybe he wants to be the boss. But look, whoever it's going to be is going to have some long discussions with Matt Rule and get some assurances that, I will be here for the long haul if you are my boss. Because I think Nebraska had that with Trev Alberts, and now that's gone.
And quickly, one thing they'll have to get over. How about this quote from Trev Alberts in the press release from Texas A&M? He says, "Leadership matters now more than ever before. My interest in Texas A&M is not only due to its prestigious reputation, but also because of President Welsh's compelling vision in which I believe athletics can play a small but important role in helping Texas A&M achieve unprecedented success." I think you can read in between the lines there on what some of Trev's sticking points were with Nebraska in terms of leadership by just that one little quote.
Well, and we'll read that full statement. Jake emails in, "Nerds effing up sports, a story as old as time." We need a moment for Ogre right now to just scream and spew beer everywhere. Nerds!
Lambda did win the all campus Olympics or whatever they were.
It did, and it was because of Lamar's javelin throw.
Yeah. Well, look, this is a rough day. There's no doubt about it. And in my 50 years of watching or more Nebraska athletics and being close in the last 40 or whatever it's been, I cannot remember anything like this other than the day Tom retired. But that was because the man wanted to retire. Mm-hmm. This is really a colossal failure in a lot of ways.
This is one of your own who was fixing it, saying, "I can't do it anymore." I mean, I've broken 50 helmets banging my head against the wall.
And think about this. This just didn't happen over 24 hours.
No,
okay, Texas A&M, I think, announced they were on the search on January 24th, and so however long Trev has been, somebody may have approached him and said, "Yeah, I would be interested if we don't get things turned around here." This could not, maybe I'm wrong, but this could not have been something that's happened in the last 48 hours. Would you be interested if? So there's been a lot of behind the scenes, more than whatever power play was made today. Something's been up for a long time, and it just culminated into today. And I'm guessing A&M finally just said now or never.
Right, and don't kid yourself. With Ted Carter taking A&M's AD, I wouldn't be surprised if Ted Carter gave A&M a heads up that there's a great one in Lincoln.
Possibly. That's very possible. But it's going to take a big sell job on a lot of people to keep this thing on course.
Well, Bill, we appreciate you. Thanks for jumping in. We'll likely have an emergency Average Joe pod at some point this week, and we'll check in again with you on Friday if that's cool.
Absolutely. And again, I am applying for the job.
Bill Doleman for AD. Pride of Fairbury, Bill Doleman. Bill, thank you.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
We'll squeeze in a couple of phone calls. More time for you tomorrow on the stream. On the phones, via email, via Twitter, at HVarsity Radio, at KFOR, Facebook, and Twitter. Again, the YouTube channel, Hail Varsity. Like, subscribe at HVarsity Radio, Twitter, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, also streaming there at Herbal Essence for Elijah Herbel, at Schmidt_radio for us. Who's on the line?
We go to Matt first.
Matt, thanks. Matt, thanks for your patience. Go for it.
I just want you guys to know, you guys are ready, doing a good job. I love every one of you. I think you should keep your job.
Well, thank you.
I appreciate it.
There's no thing about it. Just keep your head on the job. If you don't do it, you tell those guys that come down and kick some.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
I love that.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you, Matt. John is with us here on Hail Varsity. John, go for it. Thanks for hanging.
Yeah, I got a little caveat. Tom Osborne did not leave independently. Bill Burns told him if he wanted to have Frank Solich, he had to leave. And when Bill Burns took a trip down to Texas, Tom Osborne took the opportunity to introduce Frank as the next football coach.
Yeah, you had a monster power struggle 30-plus years ago, and ADs want to know who their boss is, who they're working for. Football coaches want to know who their AD is. You want a wonderful relationship that you're tied to the hip with and someone you trust.
Well, it's going to be, it's been sort of like little Abner with our Regents and Athletic Department over the last 20 years. And it just, I'm almost 80, and it just sickens you to see such a situation at Nebraska, to lose somebody like Trev Alberts, who, he was, you mentioned the South Stadium, but there were some other problems. Like Albert told the men's and women's track team, and I have a friend who has a daughter on the team, they tore that track down to build a building, and he said, well, if you want a track, go raise your own $5 million, And there was a lot of undertow about what the women's athletic coaches were getting, starting with the volleyball, going to basketball, going to soccer, going all, softball. So there wasn't, he did a good job, but all jobs are going to have undertow. And I think, with the South Stadium going to be taken down and these people not going to have seats, and I think it's just, dealing with the administration. Like you said, it's their own money, but they can't spend it without their stamp on it. I just think he just saw a series of buffoons running the university, and he just wanted to get out where he felt he could do something.
Well, he needed a green light, and he had his vision for how to get Nebraska going the right direction from a facility standpoint. He's made the hires. Coaches have performed well, right? And you need to be able to get some forward movement. You can't do that when you've got an interim as your boss. John, we gotta hang up. We're out of time. Appreciate you for listening as long as you have. Podcast is Spotify, iTunes, Google Play for today's back-breaking news. Nebraska losing Trev Alberts, takes the job at Texas A&M.
Why do bad things always happen on my birthday?
Well, no comment. Back at you tomorrow at 4. It's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.